Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Professor Dr. Ismail Hussain, Chair, Center for Policy Research, IUBAT, and Professor CS, Professor Dr. Hamida Akhtar Begum, Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Abdul Rob, who just spoke, and of course we are told Professor Dr. John Richards from Simon Fraser University of Vancouver have also joined. All the faculties, guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really privileged to have come and joined you again, because I remember when your founder was still alive, I came here to speak on agricultural development long back. I have a very fond memory of him, and also I worked with your Vice Chancellor, Mr. Rob, when he was in the BRAC University, and also in IBA, Bangladesh, Dhaka University. Thank you again for inviting me to this very interesting seminar that you are conducting. The theme of the conference or the seminar is the impact of COVID-19 on the agribusiness and also the agricultural sector. Dr. Rob and Dr. Your Pro Vice Chancellor have already, spoken about the particularly the role of agriculture in our economy. This small intervention, what I'll try to really give you in summary about the Bangladesh journey of development, particularly growth, which has been so vibrant and so inclusive. And then we will go back to the potentials of agriculture. Indeed, the Bangladesh story is still to be told. It's a very fascinating story. It's a very compelling story. And agriculture has played the most significant role in terms of making this story. The younger generation who may not be aware that today's economy, the size of the economy is about the last fiscal year, $355 billion. This was not so even about 12 years, 13 years back. It was only $91 billion. Back in 1972, the size of the economy was only about $8 billion. Can you imagine an economy with $8 billion, with 3% of its GDP as savings, 9% as its investment? It was not an easy job. Food deficit was very, very stark. And our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we are celebrating his birth centenary. He was always careful about investing in agriculture and the people. So the first budget, which was very meager budget, and also the first 5-year plan, he put in the maximum investment on agriculture. About 26% of the investment in the first 5-year plan was on modernization of agriculture, providing inputs like the seeds, modern seeds, irrigations, credit, and all that. So the next was industry, and then followed by education. So he was very, very far-sighted and put in a lot of efforts for agriculture. And agriculture has been our savior even during this pandemic. As Dr. Rob has indicated, we could have never done so well if we didn't focus our attention on the agriculture. In fact, the daughter of Bangabandhu, our current Prime Minister, has been pursuing the same policy of putting the maximum emphasis on agriculture and rural economy, because rural economy really provides us all the goals of not only sustainable development goals, but also for the sustainable growth strategy that we have outlined in our vision for development. Bangladesh is indeed doing so well, as I told you, an economy of 355 billion, and now is aspired to have its economic size of $500 billion by the year 226, fiscal year 226, and with a very stunning growth rate. I'll come back to that. As I told you, the eradication of poverty and maintaining zero hunger, and even becoming a high-income country by 2041. These are the dreams of the nation. And it is needless to say that agriculture sector is going to play a key role in attaining these macroeconomic objectives. Many people talk agriculture only in terms of microeconomy. I think the agriculture plays a more significant role in macroeconomic. Bangladesh has been really enjoying a stunning macroeconomic stability over the few decades. And one of the reasons is, of course, agriculture, which has been providing employment and income for a significant portion of our households, and providing the in a base of the pyramid, which has become so stronger. So let me come back to the macroeconomic scenario a bit further. Bangladesh, over the last 5 years or so, if we can tell you, or even earlier, for the last 2 decades, has been the #1 country in Asia for being ahead of most of the Asian countries in terms of per capita GDP growth rates. I'm not talking about the GDP growth rate alone, which Bangladesh has been also doing very well. Of late, you must have heard from the Asian Development Bank that current fiscal year, they project Bangladesh to grow about 6.8%. The World Bank projects it 6.4%. The Stand chart, only day before yesterday, they came up with an estimate that this probably will go up to 7.2% at the end of this fiscal year. I tend to agree with them. This will not be less than 7% in any way. So the growth rate itself has been so robust, and this only tells that Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing countries in the world, not only in Asia. And agriculture has played a significant role in providing the quality of this growth. This growth process, which I'm talking about, has been also very inclusive. Nearly 4% growth has come from agriculture around the last 2 decades or so. And for the last 5 years, I would say Bangladesh has been growing as good as or even better than India in terms of per capita GDP growth. Let me give you some figure, then you will get my an assertion right. From 2011 to 18, Bangladesh per capita growth rate has been growing around 9.4%. The China grew at 7%. India at 3.9%. I'm talking about 2011 to 18, this 7 years. Indonesia at 0.6%. Korea at around 3.4%. Malaysia 0.8%. Sri Lanka 3%. Thailand 3.2%, and Vietnam 6.6%. And all the figures, Bangladesh is at the top. Let me go back to the last couple of years, from 2019 to 2021. Let's go up to the recent ones. Bangladesh has been growing its per capita GDP, at around 7.8%. If you minus population growth, about 1%, so you can get the net growth rate per capita, which is much better than 6%. So I thought Bangladesh is doing pretty well in terms of GDP. Here also Bangladesh is number one in Asia. China has been growing around this couple of years, 6.9%, India 3.1%. In fact, if you remember last fiscal India went minus. Maldives went minus, although this year they will be doing better, but they went minus. But Bangladesh remained positive around 4%. And Indonesia grew around 2.5% over the last couple of years. Malaysia 1.6%, Sri Lanka minus 1.9%. Thailand 1.8%, Vietnam 4%. So given all the figures that I had been talking about, Bangladesh is at the top of the growth story in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has joined the 7% club quite a few years back and hope that this will continue. But what is the good story about Bangladesh is that this is an inclusive story. And that's why the poverty reduction has been so impressive in Bangladesh, because the pyramid of the social pyramid, the base of the social pyramid has been hugged by the policymakers here in Bangladesh, and the story of Bangladesh growth really remains so impressive because this growth really originates from the consumption. The consumption still remain the main contributor to GDP growth, although investment is coming up. Investment has not been that much, but it's coming up. And this consumption has been driven by besides agricultural production, exports and remittances. As you all know, the money goes straight into the rural areas from remittance, and exports and remittance and agriculture together. These are the three pillars of our growth story. And in addition, the young population, the young demographics has been a source of our story. The rising labor force, particularly the women labor force, around 38% of the formal labor force coming from women who have some education, primary and medium education, who have shifted from the rural areas to the urban areas, and they are the ones contributing to the export sector. So Bangladesh, the challenge is how to navigate the urbanization. Bangladesh urbanization is very pathetic, I would say very complex. And as Dr. Rob was telling, we got to refocus our attention on the quality urbanization. And there, I think the rural-urban compact can be very useful, and rural becomes urban if we can really push that forward. Another factor which has been really helping Bangladesh is the modernization. The modernization drive of agriculture has been phenomenal, I would say. As of today, as you all know, more than 95% of the land in Bangladesh are mechanically tilled. We have irrigation mechanically done, and now the solar irrigation programs are coming in, and a lot of research and development has taken place on agriculture. I'm sure the Bina disease here and others are there. They have innovated. The agriculture institutions have been so useful, thanks to Bangabandhu, who started BERT, Bina, BRI, all these good institutions in agriculture, and the subsequent governments have been pushing this agenda. So they have really provided so much of innovations in our seed, climate-friendly seed. The climate change has been phenomenal in Bangladesh, but the agriculture researchers, thanks to them, they have come up with innovative seeds and saline-resistant seed varieties. Now, the cold recently they have done also on the cold-resistant seed varieties. So these are some of the important gains that Bangladesh has been making. Bangladesh has also been making so much gains, and the growth rate is so good, although the private investment has not been that impressive, mainly because of the government's focused attention on infrastructure, particularly the mega infrastructures, as you all know, the mega projects. These are growth multipliers, these are employment multipliers, and Bangladesh government actually, at the moment is at the forefront of our growth story, and they are taking the country to towards this fantastic and compelling growth story that we are witnessing. And what is good about Bangladesh growth story is that it's very consistent. The policies have been consistent thanks to the the longer term period of a government, because if you have a long-term period of a government, then you can take larger projects, and also you can instill a lot of policy innovations. And Bangladesh has been doing pretty well in terms of innovations, in the sense that the last budget, if you have seen, that they have introduced Made in Bangladesh as one of our agenda, and by really giving a lot of tax holidays and other facilities to our indigenous production, Bangladesh, Made in Bangladesh story is very compelling. Foreign investment is also coming. We will be producing the vehicles in Bangladesh, and we are going for electric vehicles also in Bangladesh, which has got a lot of forward and backward linkages. So, so that is also good. One of the good things that is happening over the last couple of months, we can see, is that the Bangladesh domestic mobilization of resources has also been increasing. Over the last couple of months, we see that our revenue has been growing around 15%, and both VAT and income tax has been growing thanks to the automation of the the revenue mobilization at the source. Nearly 60+% of that come from there. The automation has taken place, and this has been helping pretty well our domestic resource mobilizations. Over the last couple of months, we can see a rebound. We have been defying pandemic and moving forward. Since we could not get the access to vaccine as we planned initially. Initially, we are doing one of the best in the world, but then we had to export the vaccines, which was not forthcoming. It was the failure of the global leadership, not of Bangladesh. 84% of the vaccines have been allocated or have been monopolized by the developed countries, and we developing countries, we were the victims of that monopolization. WHO started well, wanted to give us as much vaccines as we could, but because of the developed countries' leadership, we could not get so. Our, the intellectual property, so-called intellectual properties, they could not open up the vaccine as a global public good. Our Prime Minister has been pushing this idea in the UN and many other international forums that something like vaccination should be an international public good, and that even we were ready to pay for as much money needed. And thanks God, due to the smart diplomacy of the government and the Prime Minister herself, we are now getting more vaccines. And but again, given the size of the population, it's not very easy. We hope to reach around 40% of the people vaccinated by the end of this year and 60% by the end of the fiscal year. But I think we could do better if we get the supply. Our vaccination culture is so well, we could have done far better if we could get the access. So one of my submission will be to the global leadership to provide or to open up the intellectual property for Bangladesh and countries like Bangladesh who can produce these vaccines in their pharmaceuticals. We have one of the best pharmaceuticals in the world, and we could do this far better if we and with the, as we can see that the global economy is opening up, the US economy, the UK economy, the European economy, they're all opening up mainly because of the overwhelming vaccination. So ours, the only way forward is to go for more vaccination. I'm sure the government is doing its best, but we people are ready. So unlike the US or many other countries, our people are very pro-vaccinated. They would like to go for vaccination like a festival. So this is one good thing that is happening in Bangladesh. We only hope that we get the vaccines. Let me come back to the recent roundabout, the resilient rebound of Bangladesh. You will be happy to know that, as I told you, three pillars of Bangladesh has been really pushing this forward, the post-pandemic recovery of Bangladesh. Number one, agriculture, because unless we had this kind of agriculture, not only the cereals, but our progress in the livestock, in fishing, in poultry has been phenomenal. In that growth rate has been much more than 5% in those value-added agriculture. Even in cereal, we don't have to really import so much for cereals. Just we do for our food security and building up the storage for the goods. But for survival, we never have to now import rice from other countries, and that has given us a very good strength for our macroeconomic strength. Imagine if we had to really spend $2 to $5 billion every year for importing rice. What would have happened to our reserve position? We have a stunning macroeconomic fundamentals, because our export, our remittance, and our self-sufficiency in food has given us the strength that we can really have about 9 months worth of foreign exchange reserves. I was a central bank governor, so I know what is the benefit of the reserve. When I joined Bangladesh Bank in 2009, the Bangladesh foreign exchange reserve was around $6.5 billion. And over the 7 years, we could push it up to $32 billion. And this process has continued right at the moment. Over the last 18 months, it has been accruing. And Bangladesh is now about $46+ billion of reserve, which is about 9 months worth of import. So this has given us an extra cushion so that we can really create money, we can really invest money, we can really attract foreign investment because of the stability of the macroeconomic stability that we have been watching in Bangladesh. And one of the good things that is happening in Bangladesh is the export sector has rebounded. If you see the figures, you'll be happy to know over the last quarter, that is July to September, our fiscal year starts in July, ends in June. So over the last quarter, that means July to September, overall export grew at 11.37%. And the April shipment has been phenomenal, although the cost of shipping has gone up, but April shipment has been increasing. due to the foreign markets opening up of the foreign market. While overall export has increased from 11 to about 1102 billion in quarter 1 from 9.9 billion dollars in the same period last fiscal year. The apparel itself has export of apparel has increased around 11.48% from 9.06% of the same quarter last year, this is happening because of the government's focused attention on support to not only the exporting entrepreneurs but also to the workers. And Bangladesh knitwear now over the last couple of months has been increasing at 15.69%. And if we see year to year, the apparel export, 38% increase in September from the last September. We now in September we registered $4.16 billion of apparel exports, which was 3.02 billion last September. The branding, the institutions like Gap, our international consumers, Gap, Tesco, JCPenney, Walmart, H&M, Marks and Spencer are all putting new orders, and we feel that this Christmas will be very useful in the sense that robust for our exports, and our buyers have already started putting new orders for their summer clothes and also the autumn clothes. So this has been a very fantastic story for exports. Another factor which has been helping Bangladesh is digitization. Bangladesh is a story of digitization. The software parks that we have developed in Jessore is buzzing with activities. A few other software parks are also working. Our internet-enabled services are going well, and exports pretty well. And we hope to grow by $5 billion in next couple of years. And we are really doing pretty well in terms of sustainable finance, where we are working for the as I said, bottom population. Bangladesh story is so fascinating, not only because of the growth, but also because of the inclusive growth. In the banking sector, you can hear all kinds of bad stories about irregularities, about non-performance, but nobody tells us the story that what is happening on the ground. Bangladesh is doing so well. Even a rickshaw puller in Bangladesh does banking twice a day through the mobile-based solutions. Even a beggar in Dhaka does banking every day through bKash, Rockets, and other mobile-based solutions. The pandemic has been so well responded, mainly because of this digitization. More than 1.4 million agents are working throughout the countries, and they are not only providing money to the small vendors or the population at large, but they're also putting employment. Nearly 2.8 million people have been employed by these agents. So this is an employer also. So we have been doing so well because of these kinds of positive kind of moves that Bangladesh has done, thanks to our Prime Minister and her son, that we went for Digital Bangladesh campaign back in 2008 and 9. and I was a party to that preparation of the mandate, election manifesto, and we never thought that the Bangladesh will do so well in such a short period of time. Bangladesh story is indeed a fascinating story from that perspective. I really want to come back to your conference and conclude. I really want to thank you for organizing this symposium on agribusiness innovations and how Bangladesh agriculture has been really coping with the disaster. I'm sure in the technical session which is coming up, the researchers and your teachers and global participants will be talking about the sustainable and inclusive development and the role of agriculture, particularly on the technological infusion in that sector. The education has to be really encouraged to become the midwife for the digitization of agriculture using Internet of Things in agriculture. And Bangladesh, thanks to the pandemic, I want to give the thanks to the pandemic. Many of our students, including yours, have moved into the agricultural sector as entrepreneurs in recent times, while the average age of a farmer in Bangladesh is still about 40. But many of the new boys and girls have moved into the rural areas thanks to the pandemic for becoming entrepreneurs in horticulture. They are producing now lemons. They are producing oranges and our varieties of oranges, and they are getting into fisheries. So they're the young the farmers with gins are moving into the rural Bangladesh and making a Bangladesh story. If you hear Shaikh Shiraz in his media and blogs, you can understand how first Bangladesh is moving into value-added agriculture. With that background, I think it must be noted that we need to invest more in the research and development. Although Bangladesh government is doing quite well in terms of research and development, many of the research institutes heads are here. They will understand that while it is true for all sectors investing in research and development for agriculture sectors, we need more of it, because this is we are comparatively better off in agricultural sector. So we need obviously more support for agricultural research and development, and because this will not only give livelihoods, but will also provide us a lot of exports. 1 billion plus exports have already happened for agro-processing industries in Bangladesh. And what is good about Bangladesh export story is that about more than 50% of our exports of agricultural products are really going to our neighbors. So we are connecting between our Asian partners, our PRAN and many others are really major players in the region. So this is a good thing. It's not only China or USA our destination, but we are really destined to many other countries of the world, particularly in agro-processing. So this gives us a hope that if we put more emphasis on R&D in agriculture, we'll do far better. It is heartening to see that more and more researchers are coming up with new innovative ideas for agricultural sector. For example, it appears that expansion of the market for jute geotextile, JGT, we call it, can yield magnificent results. And researchers have found that tensile strength of in a jute geotextiles can increase further up to 38% if those are treated with natural additives. So if in agriculture, jute has been our in the past as legacy, golden fiber. This has now become our future also, our green agriculture. In fact, the geotextile is being considered as one of the most important diversified jute products with a potentially large-scale application. If you can control soil erosion, if we can consolidate the vegetation, if we can protect the riverbanks erosions, this will become one of the best items in our kitty. Hence, further strengthen in geotextiles, if developed and marketed properly, can have a revolutionary impact on employment generation, on export diversification, on growth, green growth. European Union has decided that from now on, they will not accept any non-natural packaging for their exports. And I'm sure jute will be the number one in a preferred goods if we can process it well. Again, despite many of our prudent inclusive development policies, enhancing access to market for the producers belonging to the bottom of the pyramid remains an area in which is quite challenging. And we got to, in pandemic, we have seen that this marketing of the goods of the small farmers remains a challenge, and we need to, although things are improving due to e-commerce, but we are shocked by the greedy some of this e-commerce young entrepreneurs who has really spoiled the show. But anyway, study finds suggest that we need to do much more on our marketing access to agricultural product. Enhancing access to market for them will not only improve their income, but also may reduce the price, and the consumers will be benefited a lot. To do so, we need to enhance capacity of the farmers so that they may be able to do better business through e-commerce, and we also need to try out new market linkage models that brings the small farmers and the large companies, the brands like Pran, ACI, others together. It is also praiseworthy that in Bangladesh, the policymakers are now becoming more concerned with the developing future intellectual capital. There is vibrant public discourse taking place in Bangladesh regarding how to really improve our education with the business and link education like you are doing with the businesses. And I know your university is pioneering in terms of linking education with the business. However, we must not forget that here also agriculture sector needs to be prioritized. Global agribusiness is being changed consistently due to unprecedented changes that has taken place over the last 1 or 2 decades, particularly in terms of the balancing nutrition, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of resilience, expansion of digital technology in the sector, and these changes will keep on happening. Hence, we must prepare our agribusiness students with a curriculum that prepares them for future changes in the agribusiness sector instead of limiting them with the theories based on past experience. Our universities must be showing our students the ways forward in terms of practical knowledge. We must have the innovation hubs. We must have the entrepreneurship fund so that we can bring them together as practical entrepreneurs. Thus, curricula must be developed following the evidence-based approach, and I'm sure today's seminar will throw some light on that. For example, studies have shown that project or the policy analysis, consumer behavior, supply chain analysis, market analysis, etc., will become more important in the coming days for agribusiness topics, and I'm sure a new curriculum should really respond to that challenge and incorporate the same. We must be open to new suggestions and learning from the best practices, not only in Bangladesh, from the world around. Say, for example, in Saskatchewan, in Canada, the agriculture is a top priority, and the universities really do a lot in terms of improving their agricultural modernizations. And so we should really learn from the Canadian universities how they have brought it together about agricultural project like geotextiles, or about market linkage models, or even about developing new agribusiness curricula. This is because 40% of our population still directly rely on agriculture sector for income and food security, and 160 million of our people depend on sustainability of this sector. We have to double our agricultural production if we are to attain their sustainable development goals, while cultivable land is shrinking about 0.74% annually. Hence, to attain our national macroeconomic objectives as well as to fulfill our international development commitments, we have to promote agricultural innovations. It is also established that agri-mechanization can be an answer to many of our questions. As I told you earlier, that agricultural tilling is going on in mechanized, but our harvesting and other processes are yet to be mechanized. For example, small size of the farmlands makes application of modern machinery quite difficult. Poor and marginal farmers often lack the know-how and financial capacity to avail the most efficient technologies. But I want to thank the government and also our young entrepreneurs. They have moved very quickly into the rental market of the mechanization, of the threshers, of the tillers. So they are providing the services through rental market, and we got to improve this entrepreneur, support them. Adequate investment in research and development in agriculture can provide us with a tailored solution to those problems. And along with public sector, the private sector must also come forward to this, and both the government and the private sector are already implementing numerous agri-mechanization initiatives. The metal, the TIR, the ACI, they are all working together. Many of them have yielded in commendable positive outcomes. We must learn from these experiences, do more research, and replicate and scale up. Another critical point to be noted here is that while coming up with the innovative solutions and making people aware of these solutions is also necessary, this is not sufficient just doing the research. We got to take it to the people's end. And enabling policy environment is required for application of this solution. For example, government is providing grants and subsidies to farmers across Bangladesh so that they may procure modern agricultural machinery. However, this supply is inadequate. The needy farmers who are not being covered by these subsidies or the grants could utilize low-cost credit from the financial service providers. A truly market-based solution is necessary for that. Bangladesh Bank has been providing spices cultivation through low-cost credit, but somehow we could not do the same for the procurement of the smaller scale, small size agricultural machineries. We have a very energetic youthful workforce. However, the youth, we need to really help them. Thanks to, as I told you, thanks to pandemic, many of the educated youths are already joining the agriculture. Many of our migrant, return migrants who have learned how to run a good agriculture abroad are coming back. So we need to support them and engage in horticulture, fishing, livestock, and making Bangladesh self-sufficient in these areas. Universities can be compassionate and become a foster mother or foster father for them. So I can go on. I don't want to really continue this another lecture of mine, but thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting session. I'm sure the local and the international participants will have will know pretty well about Bangladesh story. Just at the last minute, that Bangladesh development story is so fascinating. You will be surprised to know Bangladesh Taka, BDT, is the strongest and the most stable currency in not only Asia, but in the emerging markets. And this they could do because of the macroeconomic stability in terms of high growth rate, high reserve and remittance and all that. So Bangladesh, that's why they can really sell dollars, buy dollars, because they have that space. This is one thing that many other developing countries. Bangladesh also very interesting in terms of only 13.41% of the GDP debt really is on foreign debt, which is another room that we could do more, in terms of providing more support to our entrepreneurs. Together, about 38-39% of the debt to GDP is our debt, while the Indian is about 70 plus. So we have a fantastic story to tell to the people. I hope this seminar will tell those stories. Thank you very much again for inviting me. আমি সর্বশেষে একটু বাংলায় সামারি করতে চাই। আমি যে গল্পগুলো বললাম, বাংলাদেশের এই যে উন্নয়নের গল্প, এটি এক বিস্ময়কর গল্প। বাংলাদেশ গত এক দশকেরও বেশি, প্রায় 12-13 বছর যাবত বাংলাদেশের যে মাথাপিছু আয়ের যে প্রবৃদ্ধি, সেটি এশিয়ার মধ্যে 1 নম্বর। আমাদের পাশের দেশের মাথাপিছু আয়ের প্রবৃদ্ধি থেকে আমরা গত 5 বছর থেকে এখন আমরা বেশি। আমাদের যে ধার করার যে হার, ডেট টু জিডিপি রেশিও, ওয়ান অফ দ্য বেস্ট। আমাদের মাত্র বিদেশি ঋণের জিডিপির প্রপোর্শন 13-14% এবং টোটাল সেটা 35-40% মধ্যে, যেটি ভারতের 80% কাছাকাছি, 70-80% কাছাকাছি, ভিয়েতনামের 60% মতো। সুতরাং আমাদের একটি দারুণ স্পেস আছে, আমরা নতুন করে ভাবতে পারি এবং কৃষিতে আমরা কাজ করতে পারি। আমাদের উদ্ভাবনী ক্ষেত্রে কৃষি ভালো করছে, আমাদের নতুন ছেলেমেয়েরা, শিক্ষিত ছেলেমেয়েরা কৃষিতে যুক্ত হচ্ছে, কিন্তু এইখানে আমাদের বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়গুলোকে আরো বেশি ধাত্রীর ভূমিকা পালন করতে হবে। আমাদের ছেলে মেয়েদেরকে এই সম্ভাবনাময় ক্ষেত্রে নিয়ে যেতে হবে। গবেষণা এবং লেখাপড়ার মধ্য দিয়ে তাদেরকে আমরা এই বাস্তবতার সাথে যুক্ত করতে পারি। প্যান্ডেমিকের এই আমলে কৃষি আমাদের রক্ষা কবচ হিসেবে কাজ করেছে, রেমিটেন্স এবং এক্সপোর্ট দুটোই কাজ করছে, এবং বাংলাদেশ এখন বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতি ঘুরে দাঁড়িয়েছে এবং তরতর করে সামনের দিকে এগিয়ে চলেছে। এই অগ্রযাত্রা অব্যাহত থাকুক, এবং আপনাদের আবারও আমাকে ডাকবার জন্য অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমার কথা শেষ করছি। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ অল অফ ইউ। থ্যাংক ইউ ফর বিয়ারিং উইথ মি। থ্যাংক ইউ।